Hey guys, Ken Salvail here today. We're having a quick look at some hostas. It's that time of year we're just reviewing what's coming up in 2025. So we always look at the hostas because they're just one of our favorite plants, and they're great for shade in part sunny areas. In some climates, they do very well in full sun. So it's one of the things we want to just have a look at today. And yeah, there's some really good ones out there. So we'll just have a look here and see. This is our the proven winners list here on Walter's Gardens. It's one of the some of the top locations for really good quality plants. Of course, Proven Winners is a company that's gone through and selected different plants over the years that have just been outstanding. You know, they're just very good quality. They don't have too many pest problems. They perform well in a wide scope of different situations, and so yeah, they're really good. Often when you go to purchase plants in your local garden centers, you'll see these white pots. It says Proven Winners or PW on the side of the pot, and you might wonder what that is, but that is actually the Proven Winners collections, and there are many collections in all different categories of plants, from hostas right through to pretty much all your perennials, garden perennials, but also shrubbery and even some trees that are coming out now as well. So some of them are selected, and some of them have been bred almost specifically for the Proven Winners group. But they prove them. What they do is they trial all the plants and see how they grow, and trial them for several years often. And then once they meet the grade, they decide that plant's going to be a good one, and they will add it to their collection. And then also they get very high quality stock. So often the stock is selected from tissue culture, which is really the best way to get quality plant material. It's literally a method of cloning, so it works really well. All right, well, we're just going to have a quick look here at some of these plants, and hopefully you'll be able to see my cursor here, but maybe not. There we go. Now you should be able to see it. Anyway, this is the National Plant of the Year program, and Proven Winners has that program and selects plants for their exceptional performance. And these are some of the ones that they've selected, and we can actually have a look here at some of these hostas, the Shadowland collection. So there you go. So we can look at all the different ones that fit into the Shadowland category. So we're just going to maybe have a quick look at this and see what we can come up with. Well, okay. So Host of the Year 2026 Shadowland collection. But it sounds like this one, Hope Springs Eternal. It doesn't seem like I can do much with this picture, so I'm just going to go back. And yeah, so this is a really nice little plant there. Hosta Plant of the Year for 2026. 2025 for this year is Shadowland Miss America, it's called. So this is selected specifically from Proven Winners. So there's other groups that may also select other varieties or other types of hostas, and we'll have to look into that. But I really like the Proven Winners group just because the quality of the plant material is amazing, and these guys will make the plants available, which is one of the issues with some of the other groups, is that sometimes you can't find the plants. So that's one of the issues there. But these ones, they should be available, and you should be able to find them and get out there and get them while they're hot. So there you go. This is a nice multi-variegated colored foliage with the white down the center of the leaf, which looks quite nice. And yeah, it's just I think is a really good one. Miss America looks great for this year. Last year was this Hudson Bay one, which actually turned out to be a really good plant, and I really liked it. Actually, I was able to see it in a couple different plantings, and it was just fabulous. It's such a strong plant, and its colors are great because it mixes the blue tone of the foliage with the variegated stripe down the center of the leaf. So it resembles some of the Seaboldiana varieties, which is quite nice. And yeah, I really like that one. So that was Hudson Bay. So just from the previous year, 2023, we have this Empress Wu, who Empress Wu is an interesting character. It's said to be like the largest hosta. It grows to be massive in the garden, and so I like it just because it does have a large leaf. If anybody's familiar with Summon Substance, it's one that's a big, very large growing hosta. You can see it in this picture where it's behind these sort of regular hostas. They are quite a bit larger. So, but Empress Wu takes a few years to grow. Here's a picture of somebody standing beside it. So that gives you a pretty good idea of the size of the plant. And it's a good one. I like that plant. The sizing of it is just the question. I've grown it in different situations, and in some areas where it just didn't have the nutrition, it just didn't size up quite as nice as what I was hoping it would. So I'll have to go back and have a look at it this year and start out the spring with more fertilization, get that thing up and going. So pretty cool plant though, Empress Wu. And here's a little ruffled leafed one from 2022. This one's called Diamond Lake, and the Diamond Lake, it does get this kind of it's sort of a dusty look. Their foliage will develop this sort of dust covering on it over time, but it gives you this nice ruffled foliage, and it's always nice. In the landscape, I like to use textures as one of my key effects. So I select plants sometimes because they bloom in the spring or in the summer or the fall, but I also select for foliage color. But really, texture is one of your key things, that if you can mix up your plants with different types of textures, and that can even be just foliage size, so the little tiny leaves beside, say, Empress Wu, for example, a real massive looking hosta, that can be pretty nice, and it just emphasizes. So this one is another one of the Shadowland collection here called Wee. Sounds pretty nice, but let's have a look at this one. This has got a really nice curly leaf on it, and again, for texture, I'm thinking this is a great plant. I'm gonna see if I can get some of these into my own garden, and hopefully be able to give it a try, and hopefully the deer don't eat it. The one thing with hostas, even though they are beautiful, and they are one of the best garden plants, I would say, I just love working with foliage, and they're just the best. The issue is that with deer, if you do have deer in your neighborhood, you're going to have them come in occasionally and chomp on these hostas and cause some issues. So yeah, deer again. So there were some hostas I've noticed over the years that were less affected, but you know what? When they're hungry, they'll eat any hosta, and it's just the way it goes. So here's another one, Coast to Coast, which is more of a chartreuse colored foliage, a little more golden effect, and it's nice. I love golden leaves in the garden. Again, work with foliage colors, textures, and plant size, And the interesting thing is that when they're in deeper shade, they'll tend to be more of that sort of chartreuse, sort of greenish color, and then if they're in a little bit brighter location, the gold color will really stand out. So it's one thing with a lot of the foliage plants, golden leaf plants. That's what I find, is they need a certain amount of light that just seems to be just right, and it really helps for sure. So this is a very nice one, the 2019 Autumn Frost, and I just think this is a very elegant hosta, and again, man, they're just such a lovely plant. And this one was a little hard to find, I remember, when it first came out, but it's, I think, is one of the more popular selections. And I'm really, I just love these. Every year you get new hostas to pick from. And they have these, some of them are actually new introductions, and some of them are older hosta varieties they've reintroduced. And but they are a really beautiful plant. So yeah, this is a good one, Autumn Frost. And it's funny that sometimes when you're selecting hostas, they won't look quite as amazing in the in the garden centers, like when you see them in these little pots and there's just this little tiny plant. It's like, it doesn't really look like the picture so much. It doesn't look like much, but it takes a few years. If you select a nice hosta and get it into your garden, it's going to take about maybe at least 2 years, if not 4 years, to get the thing up into its prime. So some perennial plants are super fast growing, and they literally just expand and explode right away as soon as you plant them, whereas plants like hostas are a bit slower. It's like a peony, like if you want to grow peonies, well, it's a 3 to 4 year time lapse, time wait. You got to wait through and let that plant mature so that it becomes, that plant that you really want, and it just performs like crazy. But other perennials that are faster growing, the first year they're okay, second year they're awesome. You don't have to wait too long. So that's just the thing. I think hostas are one of those ones that you've got an investment of time, and also they have to like the location. So typical of hostas, they're going to want to grow in those locations that are really fairly rich soil. If you want to get a beautiful look on that plant, something that's outstanding, a very healthy looking plant, you got to have good soil. So you got to start with something that does have some compost dug in. What I prefer to do is almost like a garden soil that would be at a depth of at least 12 inches of reasonably good soil. And partial, we live in a drier climate here in the Okanagan. It's a sunny location and semi-arid desert. So in the summer, we're hitting really intensive temperatures up to 45 degrees Celsius. So that can be, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's pretty hard on some plants. And if you get a south-facing or west-facing area, like, forget it with hostas. It's just too hot. So we prefer to grow our hostas on eastern exposures here or northern exposures. To me, the east exposure seems to be sort of the best, because it's bright enough to keep the color in the foliage looking good, but yet it gets out of that hot afternoon sun. So yeah, it's one of these things. But if you're in other regions, say you're in more of a coastal environment where it's cooler and more, let's say just a milder climate, you don't have to worry so much about the location. More or less, you can plant pretty much anywhere you want. And you might find that some varieties are sort of more shade tolerant than others. So if you have to kind of get to know your own climate and your own yard, literally. We think of these as like microclimates. So your yard might be a little different than, say, someone else's yard, even your neighbor's yard, because theirs might be more exposed, or there might be more wind coming through, brighter light, less trees, whatever the case. And your climate would be unique. And if you plant in the front of the house, say on north side, south side, east, west, those are all unique locations. Here in our dry climate, if we're planting underneath the eaves of the house, we're going to end up with potentially very dry, desiccating situation over winter, where we don't have much precipitation, we don't have much snowfall, we do get cold temperatures, which dry things out. So, it's a challenge. So just one of these things that, we need to think about when we're planting. So yeah, it's really been nice to be able to bring this. This is a new format for me. I'm just trying out some of these. It's just some new ideas. Like, I do talk a lot about and teach a lot about plants, and this year I really want to focus on some of these plant groups. And I think that this is the way to do, is just to utilize the internet and show some of these really good plants so that you guys can give them a try and get a little bit of advice on how to do these installations. And yeah, I want to talk a lot more about landscape design as time goes on, so that's what I'm looking forward to doing. So yeah, so check out more of our videos. We have a series coming out all about pruning. So if you're interested in pruning trees, that sort of thing, you'll see some of those videos coming out. And also remember to check out our garden show, which is available on YouTube. We get a new episode every Sunday, so you can check that out. And also you can watch it live, or listen to it live, that is. It's audio only, but you can listen to it on the iHeartRadio link, which you'll see below all of our videos. So check that out, and hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.